Are you even related by blood? If you're not, you're just a stranger. Strangers aren't welcomed in our home. When I went to my son's fiance's house for a family meeting, that's what the fiance bluntly said. Even Leo is bothered by you. We don't want any further involvement, so please leave. With those words, she closed the front door on me. I was too shocked to move. My son is my husband's child from a previous relationship. After my husband passed away at a young age, I devoted myself to raising my son. We never really fought, and I thought we had a good relationship. The fiance's words pierced my heart. I couldn't believe she thought I was a nuisance. For my son's sake, I decided to cut off contact myself. However, I later witnessed a shocking scene that revealed the true nature of the fiancé and her family. I knew I had to tell my son, but worried that reaching out might bother him. While I was torn about what to do, my son came to visit. This led to even more secrets about his fiancé's family being exposed. I'm Wendy, 71 years old. Now I live alone. I first married at 25, but he was a womanizer. Every day was filled with endless arguments. The marriage fell apart after 2 years. Since then, I focused solely on my work, avoiding love. Dad, concerned about my solitary life, introduced me to a man. The man was my future husband.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Simon. I owe a lot to your father. Haha, we just met at a golf range, but hit it off. He's a great guy. I think you two will get along. Ha 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 ha.
Dad said with a hearty laugh, introducing someone he barely knew from a golf range. What was he thinking? Could this guy be trouble? Ignoring my skepticism, Simon was all smiles. Turns out he was a doctor. Being a doctor, you must be popular with the ladies. Why are you still single?
Well, actually, I have a child.
Oh. Taken aback, I watched him scratch his cheek and give a wry smile.
My ex-wife was only after money. She neglected our child, preferring to party. I divorced her and took custody of the child.
I'm sorry, that was thoughtless of me.
No, don't worry. I'm not hiding anything. It's just having a child tends to be a deal breaker for many.
Oh, he sighed, looking troubled.
That's not the only issue. Some women approach me for money, trying to get close to my son.
That's tough. How old is your son?
He's 5, full of energy and hardly ever sleeps.
My husband chuckled. He seemed like such a good person. Our conversations were enjoyable, and I felt at ease with him. Gradually, I found myself drawn to him, and we started dating. His son Leo barely spoke to me at first. He hardly responded when I tried to talk to him. His preschool friends recently pointed out that he doesn't have a mom. He's been down since then. I see. Kids can be cruel sometimes. Perhaps the friends just stated the fact that he had no mom. Despite the harsh reality, my son was deeply hurt. I tried my best to cheer him up, engaging him in conversation. Leo, want to play together?
Sure.
Nothing seemed to work, and I felt my heart breaking. Never having had a child before, I didn't know how to connect with a child. Despite several attempts, his attitude remained unchanged. I almost gave up, thinking he might never accept me. Then, one day, I was making lunch and decided to prepare a kid-friendly meal. Inspired by the kids' meals at family restaurants, I made a fun plate with an omelet, sausages cut into octopus shapes, and Neapolitan spaghetti, and even planted a little frog on it. At that time, I didn't know my son's likes or dislikes, so I figured offering a variety would surely have something he'd eat. However, when he saw the lunch I made, his eyes lit up. Wow, this looks like a restaurant. Really? I'm so glad. Can I eat all of this? Of course, I made it just for you, Leo. Yay! For the first time, I saw him acting his age, and I was close to tears. After that, he started talking to me a lot, as if his previous attitude had been a lie. When my son started elementary school, I got married to my husband. His son welcomed me, treating me like a real mother. On holidays, we'd go camping or taking trips, filling our days with joy. But those happy days didn't last long. On his way to work, my husband was hit by a drunk driver and passed away. We had only been married for 3 years. It was supposed to be just the beginning, but it turned into a sudden farewell. I couldn't accept the reality. He was so looking forward to our son's growth. Why did this have to happen so soon? I couldn't stop the tears, clinging to my cold husband as I cried. Someone came beside me. Dad, it was my son. He stared blankly at the white-covered body of my husband. The nurses desperately tried to stop us from seeing the severely damaged body from the accident. Seeing my son struggling to accept the reality, I suddenly became calm. It wasn't the time to cry. I'm a mom. I have to be there for my child. Wiping my tears, I hugged my son tightly. As he began to grasp the situation, he cried loudly in my arms. My husband was a doctor, and since he earned well, I had quit my job, but I quickly started job hunting. Luckily, having graduated from a business school and holding a CPA certificate, I managed to get a job in accounting. My days were busy with housework, childcare, and work. But watching my son grow was a joy, and I raised him with all the love I had, for both me and his late father. Then my son became a doctor.
I want to save people like Dad did.
He was interested in emergency medicine and worked in an emergency room at a graduate school hospital. He would visit home sometimes, but he often got called back to the hospital, looking very busy. I worried about his future, wondering if he ever even had time for love or marriage. Then one day he called, telling me he wanted to get married. He was dating a woman who worked as a medical secretary at the same hospital, and it turned out she lived nearby.
Hey, I told Emily's family that I want to have a family meeting. They suggested we do it at their place. Mom, you quit your job and you have some time, right? I want you to go there.
Sure. I'm marrying into their family, so it's only right that we make the effort to visit them.
That's a relief to hear. I'd like to join you, but I need to stop by work that day. Can you go ahead and I'll follow later?
Oh dear, that's tough. I'm fine with it, but don't push yourself too hard, Leo.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
On the day, I arrived at the address my son had given me, with a gift in hand. When I rang the doorbell, a beautiful woman answered. Hello, thank you for inviting me. I'm Leo's mom. As I greeted her, she glared at me, astonishingly. You're Wendy, right? I've heard about you. Sorry to say this, but can you leave? What? I was momentarily lost for words. As I stood there confused, her parents came out of the house.
So you're Leo's mom. You don't look anything like him.
Well, of course not. They're not related by blood, right? What are you talking about? Leo told us you're not his real mom. That's right, isn't it? That's true, but I've always thought of us as a real family. Before I could finish, the fiancé interrupted me. So you're not related by blood. Then you're a stranger, right? Strangers shouldn't enter our house. I was taken aback by the sudden shouting. I haven't done anything that would make me angry. Why was I being treated like this? The three of them looked at me as if I were something filthy. Leo said it too. You're not his real mom, but you keep acting like one, and it's bothersome. You keep calling, and it's annoying. But when I called the other day, he didn't mention any of this. That's just because Leo is too kind. You should realize it yourself. No, that can't be true. That's how it is. So please leave. We don't want anything to do with you anymore. With that, They closed the front door on me. I stood there in shock for a while. I had never even had an argument with my son. Had he always found me bothersome? Indeed, I used to worry whether he was eating properly, and would deliver him homemade side dishes on my days off. He always thanked me. But was it all a lie? I don't remember much after that. Somehow, I managed to get home, but couldn't do anything for a while. I had imagined a future where my son got married, and I would sometimes see my grandchildren. But now, my hopes were shattered. Still, I wished for my son's happiness more than anything. If he really thought of me as a nuisance, then I would stop reaching out to him. And so I stopped contacting my son. It was a week later. On my way to the supermarket for dinner shopping, I saw something shocking. My son's fiance's parents were being confronted by a tough-looking man.
Hey, you're short on cash. I'm sorry, we'll pay you the rest next month. How you gonna repay it, you jobless gambling addicts? Our daughter's marrying a doctor from a big hospital.
Yeah, he's always working and seems to have a lot of money, so it'll be fine. I couldn't hide my shock at their words, talking as if they were counting on my son's money from the start. I wonder if my son knows about this.
All right, I don't care as long as I get my money back. Remember, if it's even slightly short.
They were repeatedly trying to calm down a tough-looking man, but that didn't matter to me. I couldn't stand the thought of them using the money my son worked so hard to earn. Anger welled up in me, and I confronted them. Wait a minute. Is what you just said true?
Whoa, what do you want? We told you to stay out of it.
I can't just ignore this. You're planning to use my son's money to pay off your debts. I have to tell him. As I reached for my mobile phone, they panicked and stopped me. Then they snatched my phone away, laughing. Really? You know Leo. He's so busy with work that he can't do anything else. He even stayed overnight at work yesterday. Imagine how he'd feel getting a call from a non-biological mom like you at this hour.
It's annoying, right? Interrupting his work for no urgent matter.
That's... My heart pounded with tension. If you care about your son, cut ties with us. A woman like you is just in the way.
If you don't want to be hated by your son anymore, stop contacting him.
They laughed crudely. I felt frustrated at my inability to respond. I truly cared about my son. I thought of him as family and wanted nothing but happiness for him. But their remarks about blood ties shook me. I had never had my own child. Had I been a good parent? I felt my confidence waver, as if the ground was shaking beneath me. In the end, I couldn't tell my son anything. A month later, the doorbell rang, and there was my son, Leo. Leo, what are you doing here?
Mom, sorry. There's something I really need to talk to you about.
Come in first. I was sweating from surprise and tension. I never felt this awkward just talking to my son. I served coffee, and he pulled an envelope out of his bag.
Emily, my fiancée, she said since you refused to attend our wedding, there's no need to send an invitation, but I still wanted to give it to you. Are you free on the wedding day?
What? I didn't even know there was a wedding.
What do you mean?
My son looked at me puzzled. I decided to tell him everything. How I was turned away when I went to greet them, how they cut ties with me, about his fiance's parents' debts. After hearing everything, my son held my hand.
I've never once thought of you as a burden, Mom. It's all lies.
Leo, I'm sorry. I doubted whether I'd been a good mom and believed what they said.
Mom, you're a family. Blood doesn't matter. But I need to check on Emily's family. Sorry, I have to go, Mom.
Take care. My son seemed to ponder something, then hurriedly left the house. He's always been quick to act on his decisions. Something must be up this time, too. I watched my son leave with a mix of confusion and concern. A month later, he suddenly showed up at home again. What's going on? Why are you carrying such a big bag?
I left home. I'm sorry, but can I stay here for a while?
Sure, but did you talk to Emily about this?
Huh? I left a note. She should understand the situation.
A note?
Yeah, I wrote that I'm calling off the marriage.
His calm demeanor left me in shock. I never imagined him coming back home, especially when he was about to get married. It's fine by me.
Thanks, I'll use my old room.
He carried his belongings to his old room. As I was preparing dinner, there was a loud knocking at the front door. I opened it to find his fiancée, Emily, and her parents glaring furiously. It's all your fault. What do you mean, showing up unannounced like this? Because of you, Leo left. What are you going to do about it? Emily's shouting was followed by her dad's angry voice.
Did you tell them about us, you wicked woman?
I wasn't scared at all by their red-faced fury. It seemed almost comical. That's right, I told them. You were trying to make my son pay off your debts, and you seem to love gambling too. Are you marrying him just for his money? Of course. Leo hardly spends any money since he's always working. It's my right to spend as I please as his fiancée. I can't let my son marry someone who's so openly after his money. Could you please leave? Why should I listen to you? I did you a favor by agreeing to marry your boring, charmless son. He's got nothing but his money. Is that so? I spoke towards the living room, and my son appeared. Seeing him, the three turned pale. What? Why are you here? Aren't you supposed to be at work today, huh?
I took the day off. More importantly, I heard everything.
No, I mean, that was all lies.
Really? Then these photos are lies too.
He handed Emily dozens of photos. They showed her entering a hotel with an unknown man from various angles.
Looks like you met him several times while I was at work.
This is different. He's just a friend. Emily was flustered, her words stumbling.
A just friend you go to hotels with every time, huh?
No, that's not...
Emily, what have you done? Leo, I'm so sorry for my foolish daughter. Please forgive us.
I'm sorry, too. Please forgive us. While Emily turned blue and trembled, her parents apologized. My son handed them something that looked like an investigation report.
I'm sorry, but I had a detective look into both of you. You asked for a loan before, saying your business was about to fail. But the report says there's no such business. What's that about? Well, the business did fail eventually. And you've been gambling daily since then? Yeah, due to the shock and stress. But the report says you've been gambling for years, and you still owe about $100,000, right?
The two of them went silent, dripping with cold sweat. When I heard about the investigation results from the private detective agency for my son, I couldn't contain my anger. His fiancée had been unfaithful, and her parents were nothing but debtors. I couldn't stand by their audacity, trying to mooch off my son. I won't allow your marriage with my son. Wait, Leo, I was wrong. I was just so lonely. You're always working and never home. But I won't do it again. If you hate paying off Dad and Mom's debts, I'll cut ties with them. Please reconsider our marriage.
How can you say that? Cutting ties with your own parents.
That's right. What an ungrateful child, Leo. Please lend us some money, just a little. We promise to pay back.
Yes, just a bit. Lend us $100K. We'll pay it back and do anything you say.
Lies. How are you going to pay back without a job?
Shut up, you.
The fiancé's family started arguing among themselves. My son and I could only stand there dumbfounded. These people only think about themselves. They just want to save their own skin no matter what. Even though they are family, their ugly bickering continued.
Can you please take your fight outside?
Leo, I'm so sorry. How embarrassing. With these mannerless people. But don't worry, I'll cut ties with my parents. My son brushed off the fiancé's pleading hand, as if it were something filthy.
I have no intention of marrying you, Emily, or having any relationship with your parents.
What? Why? You said you loved me. How could you? The fiancé, still thinking there was a chance, gave me a headache. My son sighed exaggeratedly. Who would marry someone with no appeal other than money? Besides, you'll be paying for the infidelity and all the wedding cancellation fees. What? I didn't know about that. I can't pay that.
Not my problem. I've already consulted a lawyer. Contact them for any further communication.
Please forgive me. I was wrong. I've even quit my job. I can't afford any compensation or cancellation fees for the wedding. The fiancé began to sob and apologize profusely. The sight was almost comical. If only she hadn't cheated in the first place.
I don't want to see your face anymore. If you don't leave, I'll call the police.
The fiancé, in tears, must have realized it was over. She just kept crying. But crying doesn't excuse her. She looked up at her parents. Dad, Mom, lend me the money for the compensation and wedding cancellation?
We don't have that kind of money.
Our daughter is in trouble. Can't you do something?
There's nothing I can do.
That's right. If you hadn't cheated, things might have worked out. What a foolish child. And so the fiancé's family started arguing again. My son and I just held our heads, watching their absurd conversation. How can you say that? You are the ones who borrowed money from Leo.
That's right. We have our own debts, so we can't afford to take care of someone else's problem. Rather, you should pay off our debts.
Why should I? Exactly. Emily is still young enough to work, but we're over 60, you know.
That's right. Earn money for your parents. We're family, aren't we?
Don't be ridiculous. You're no longer parents or anything to me. Stay out of my life for good. Frustrated with his constantly quarreling fiancé and her parents, our son finally forced them out of our house. They cried and apologized, but it was too late. What a spectacle it had been. They stormed in like a tempest, causing a ruckus, and then disappeared without even an apology. Even if you're related by blood, some families just don't work out.
Yeah.
Exhausted, we let out deep sighs. Afterwards, our son broke up with Emily and focused on his job. Emily tried to find work in medical administration, but it seemed difficult. Rumors of their breakup had spread through the hospital and beyond, hampering her chances. Even her parents' gambling issues became known, leading to rejections everywhere. I heard she's juggling part-time jobs and living a poor life. As for her parents, burdened by debts, they apparently fled, leaving their house to become a property for sale. I'm relieved my son is free from such selfish people. Had they married, his hard-earned money would have been squandered. It's not just about money. Building a good relationship with people who only see him as a walking ATM would have been tough. Despite being busy, my son visits home more often. He takes time off to celebrate birthdays. Such a kind and wonderful son. Blood relation doesn't define family. My son is my precious and only family, and I say that with confidence now, and I sincerely wish for his happiness.
Thanks for always finishing your lunch. Huh? I haven't been eating it. What? I've been throwing it away. I couldn't believe my ears. I get up early to prepare his lunch every morning, and turns out he's been throwing it away. Why would you do that? It's my lunch. I can do what I want, right? I was heartbroken. Seeing my husband laugh as he said that, I lost faith in him as a person, and I decided to get back at him. I show him that I'm not always a submissive wife. Please marry me. Yes. 1 year after we started dating, I married my husband. We met at work. He worked at the head office, and I worked at the sales office. While we were dating, he was always putting me first, taking me to my favorite places, letting me eat my favorite foods. Every day I was happy, thinking about the wonderful life waiting for us. But his attitude changed drastically after we got married. He would always nitpick on everything I do and made all the decisions himself. He was a controlling husband. And things gradually got worse. Recently, something truly unforgivable happened. Huh? What did you say just now? I told you to start making lunch every day from tomorrow. Why? It's normal for a wife to make her husband's lunch, right? 3 years into our marriage, my husband suddenly started saying this. I work too, so I'm busy in the mornings. Honestly, I don't want to take on more than I have to. We used to eat lunch separately, so why the sudden change? I was puzzled. I don't want meal preps. I want freshly made ones every morning. From that day on, I started getting up at 5 a.m. to make his lunch. I wasn't particularly good at cooking to begin with, and even making something as simple as scrambled eggs took a considerable amount of time. So preparing the side dishes for lunch from morning was quite a task. Because of this, I got less sleep, and it was extremely tough. And then came that night. Seeing the empty lunchbox in the sink, I felt relieved, thinking, oh, he ate it all. From then on, I made his lunch every day, but he never expressed any opinion. So out of curiosity, I asked him, by the way, is there anything particular you want in your lunch? No, not really. I see. I thought you liked it since you always finish it. Huh? I haven't been eating it. What? I've been throwing it away. I couldn't believe my ears. I was baffled as to why he would throw away the lunch I got up early every morning to make. Why would you do that? Well, your cooking is bland. It doesn't make me want to eat. But I get up early and put a lot of effort into making it. Then make something that makes me want to eat. But you don't have to throw it away. You made it for me. I can do whatever I want with it. I couldn't believe it. Why would he have me make lunch in the first place? When I asked him, he nonchalantly responded, because it's fun. He made me make lunch just so he could throw it away. I never thought he would do such a thing. I was so heartbroken that I cried myself to sleep that night and didn't make his lunch the next day. Then my husband got furious. I saw no point in preparing his lunch, knowing that he won't have it. But if I snapped back, I knew he would throw a temper, so I decided to fix his lunch again, starting the next day. But it's going to be thrown away anyway. Feeling more and more hollow each day as I made his lunch, I gradually began to prepare fewer items. You've been slacking off recently, haven't you? Do you think I wouldn't notice? I'm sorry, but if you're not going to eat it, it's the variety of food that makes me feel refreshed when I throw it away. Don't you get it? I don't understand at all. And because of my lack of sleep every day, I was so weakened that I started making mistakes at work. That's when I heard a certain rumor. It was that my husband was bad-mouthing me. When I asked my colleague, who went on a business trip from our sales office to the headquarters for details, he was apparently saying things like, useless wife, and she can't do anything without me. She has no will of her own. It's bad enough that he's saying these things behind my back, but hearing such a thing, I can't just sit back and take it. On the weekend, to confirm the truth, I asked a close friend who works at the headquarters, Mickey. I've heard it too. Really? Well, your husband's basically harsh on women. I don't know if it's because he's good at his job, but he seems to think that women should only be assigned to make photocopies or something. No way. He wasn't like that before you got married. Did you do something? It's the other way around. I'm the one being treated poorly. How's he treating you? I told Mickey about him throwing away my lunch. As she listened, she got very angry and hugged me as she cried. You've been very patient. I can't imagine how hard it must have been. Why are you crying, Mickey? I'm crying for you, idiot. But that's unacceptable. He needs to learn his lesson. That's true. He's wronged you. Are you not considering getting a divorce? I have concerns about money right now. You can handle that. I'm more worried about you. You're numb to the pain even after being mistreated like that. That's a sign you're not okay. It's not like I'm numb. I'm pissed. Then Mickey looked at me intently. Do you want to get a divorce? In reality, the word divorce had been hovering in my mind. Fortunately, we had no children. I found myself wondering if I should continue living with my abusive husband for the rest of my life. To think things through, I wanted to make use of this opportunity. I looked straight into Mickey's eyes and said, "There's something I want to try. Will you help me?" "Of course. Thank you. I want to use your position." You see, Mickey is actually the granddaughter of our chairman. Moreover, she's currently working as an executive assistant at the headquarters. I can't not make use of such a powerful ally. That's quite an idea. I get it. I'm starting to look forward to this. If this goes well, I can get my husband to be ashamed of himself. On the following Monday, as usual, I handed my husband his lunch. "Do you have time tonight?" "What's up all of a sudden?" "You know Mickey, my friend who works as an executive assistant?" "Yeah? What about her?" "Mickey says she'd really like to invite us to dinner. Apparently the chairman will also be there." "The chairman?" "He wants to show appreciation for his hardworking employees." "If it's a request from the chairman, I can't refuse." "All right." I thought he would be suspicious, but surprisingly, he agreed quite easily. Perhaps he was pleased with the thought of being invited by the chairman. With that, everything was in place. After work, I met up with my husband and confirmed, once again, that he had thrown away his lunch. Then we went to the restaurant specified by Mickey for dinner with the chairman. Feeling good about the fancy place, my husband began to boast about how competent he was. "Today, I finished my work early and helped my colleagues. You know, being reliable is hard work when you're this good at your job." "Is that so?" "The chairman's granddaughter is beautiful, and she's an executive assistant, so I bet she's good at her job, too." "I'm just doing my job like everyone else." "You don't need to be so humble. You're far different from my wife." He got on my nerves a bit, but the chairman moved on to the main topic. "You get a packed lunch from your wife every day, don't you?" "Yes, she does work hard on that." "What a wonderful thing! A lovingly prepared lunch from your wife. But it's the same thing every day. I'd like something extravagant once in a while." "That's not something you should expect from your wife." "Really? Don't you, as a chairman, get extravagant lunches?" "I prefer something simple. It's an everyday thing, after all." "Oh, you're just joking. You've even arranged for us to eat in such a wonderful place today." My husband's attitude was completely different from usual. He must be trying to put on a good show in front of the chairman. I watched nervously, not knowing how it would turn out. "So, you don't cook?" the chairman asked. "Cook? No, that's woman's work." "I don't think that's the case nowadays. I think it's normal for men to work outside home, and for women to take care of home. We both work, but ideally, I'd like my wife to stay at home." "Really? Men are breadwinners, and women are homemakers. That's how it's supposed to be." "That's a rather old-fashioned way of thinking." "Really? I think all men in the world would think the same way. Despite the increase in women's participation in society, they end up taking a maternity leave or quit their job. In the end, it's men who run the society. And it's the same in our company as well. Don't you agree, Mr. Chairman?" That was the first time I'd heard such a thing. But he should know that we can't live on his income alone. He was spouting off derogatory comments about women, but the chairman avoided addressing them and continued the conversation. "What do you think of men who cook?" he asked. "They're feminine. I've heard it's becoming more common, but I don't understand it." "What if I told you that I enjoy cooking? Would you think I'm feminine?" "Huh?" "And what if I told you that I, not your wife, made today's lunch? What would you do?" "You're kidding, right?" You could feel the chairman's anger seeping through his words, and it's understandable, because his handmade lunch was thrown away. "Hey, what's this about?" "What do you mean, what? You said yourself you didn't eat your lunch today, right?" The plan that Mickey and I hatched involved getting some help from the chairman, who had recently taken up cooking as a hobby. Yesterday, the chairman had kindly given us some of his homemade dishes, which I repackaged and handed over to my husband this morning. You set me up? It was far different from what I usually cook. Anyone could tell at a glance. My husband, who must have thrown it away without checking, was momentarily at a loss for words. Watching this, Mickey speaks up. Aren't you more concerned about the terrible things you're doing? What terrible things? It's strange to throw away food every day without even eating it. That's right. It's the worst to just throw away something someone else has made for you, without any appreciation. Well, if I had known it was made by you, sir, I wouldn't have thrown it away. My husband is trying to hastily backtrack, looking pale at the chairman's words. So, you wouldn't throw away the lunch I make, but it's okay for you to throw away the ones prepared by your wife? Well, she's no good of a wife. Can't a husband do whatever he wants? That was my last straw. You are really the worst. What are you on about all of a sudden? Don't you realize how much your actions are hurting me? Huh? Why are you getting so worked up? I can't stand it anymore. I want a divorce. My husband stood, looking perplexed. He glances around the room, realizing he has no one to back him up, and begins to panic. What are you talking about? How can you just say something like that out of the blue? It's not out of the blue. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Where did the kind man I married go? I was in love with you then. I don't love who you are now. As I conveyed my feelings, tears began to spill. I took out the divorce papers that I had put in my bag and placed them on the table. All you need to do is sign. I filled in the rest. You're serious? If this looks like a joke to you, you're more helpless than I thought. Do you think you can survive after divorce? I'll be fine. I'll be getting alimony from you after all. What? Watching this scene, the chairman began to speak. You seem to have some prejudices against women. That's not what I mean. I've heard from my granddaughter about your attitude towards our female employees. Coupled with this incident, this isn't something I can overlook as a chairman. What are you talking about? I'll let my son, the president, know about this. Wait, sir! I can't lose my job now. Before worrying about your job, there are other things you should do first. Taken aback by the chairman's angry voice, my husband was at a loss for words. Not once have you apologized. When you do something wrong, you apologize. Even a kid in elementary school knows that. I'm very sorry. Not to me, to your wife. Can't you even understand that? You're making me sick. Mickey, let's go. Sure. Linda, let's go. Huh? What are you waiting for? You're not going back home, right? You're coming with us. Seeing the desperate look on my husband's face, Mickey and I left the restaurant, feeling quite relieved. The next day at work, I got a call from Mickey. Your ex-husband got demoted. Demoted? When HR investigated his work behavior, there were complaints from female employees, one after another. Is that so? And apparently his performance in sales has plummeted. He deserves it. It seems that he was transferred to a sales branch in the countryside where the women were quite formidable. At first, he seemed to resist and continued his tyrannical behavior. But the place was filled with tough women, like old-school matriarchs. And within a week, he was unable to talk back. Now, he is so respectful of the woman in the office that he even voluntarily makes copies. 2 weeks later, Mickey contacted me again. I was issued a notice of termination and was told that I would be transferred to work at the head office. And a secretary position. What does this mean? I think this is the chairman's doing. It seems that the chairman took a liking to me after seeing my declaration the other day, so he spoke with the president to allow me to work as a trainee secretary with Mickey. Oh, and there's a message from Grandpa. What? He said, "We're going to have a dinner party once a month where you'll eat his homemade food. This is an order coming from him as a chairman. What? Chairman's gonna cook for me? He apparently wants to treat you. He even mentioned taking cooking classes. Later, the divorce was finalized successfully. I was able to receive my desired amount of alimony, which was $20,000. I lost a husband, but I gained a new friend. I'm happy. From now on, I plan to have my chairman teach me how to cook delicious meals for myself.
Before payday as usual, my eldest son, his wife, and their daughter came to visit me at my home. After dinner, they lounged in the living room without helping clean up. As I was about to bring them coffee, I overheard a conversation between my son and his wife through the door.
Ariel, we should take this house for ourselves. Let's put Mom at some facility.
We should make her give it to us while she's still alive. We don't want her getting forgetful.
I'll find a good place for her. Dad apparently left some money, too.
Great, haha. Mother-in-law's like an ATM, huh? Take out money whenever you want.
Exactly. It's good to have rich parents.
Hearing their laughter, I felt like collapsing right there. I was crushed by a mix of humiliation and regret. After crying in the kitchen, rage surged within me. I'll never forgive them. I'll make them regret their words and actions. My name is Molly. I'm 82. I lived alone in this house full of memories with my late husband, whom I was arranged to marry. I enjoyed my solitude, attending theater by train or bus, going to department store events. I led my life at my own pace, even skimping on meals or cleaning on my weary days. But then, an issue arose. My estranged eldest son, who had been out of touch since dropping out of high school, started visiting frequently with his wife and daughter. I didn't even know he was married with a child. Yet they just showed up out of the blue saying,
"We've come to show you our grandchild."
"You must be thrilled," leaving me utterly bewildered. His only goal seemed to be my $7 million inheritance from my father. My father was a company president who owned multiple buildings and apartments in prime locations. After complex legal proceedings, it became mine. That's when my son and his wife started cozying up to me. In retrospect, accepting their first request was probably my mistake. It only escalated from there. Still, it was hard to say no when it was for my granddaughter. They had moved to the same town and were once again at my home during dinner.
Chicken and tomato soup? What a lonely dinner.
My son, who had invited himself over and then complained, helped himself to seconds before broaching a new topic.
"Mom, we want Melody to take ballet and piano lessons."
Well, why not? My 6-year-old granddaughter has been skillfully picking out the vegetables from her chicken and tomato soup and arranging them on the table. I'm taken aback. But my eldest son and daughter-in-law are ignoring it. I bite my tongue and go back to my own plate, figuring it's not my place to reprimand her if her parents won't.
It cost around $2,000 a year for the recital costumes and private lessons.
Oh, that's quite a bit. You'll cover it, right, Grandma? Excuse me? My daughter-in-law continues with an air of expectation. We can't afford that. Everyone else's grandparents cover these costs. Okay, fine. I thought, well, if that's all it is, no big deal. But it didn't stop there. Every time a family event came up, they send me a message. Give us $2,000 for a theme park overnight trip, $10,000 for a new car, and $5,000 for our grandchild's graduation trip abroad. Knowing the financial situation of my eldest son's family, I've always been generous with gifts for my grandchild, like for school enrollment and Christmas presents. Yet they still act this way. And yet, this is how they act. Meanwhile, my younger son and his wife, both busy with full-time jobs and living in the neighboring state, only manage to visit around Christmas time. Because my sons have never gotten along, my younger son carefully plans his visits to avoid running into his older brother. When they do come, his wife helps out in the kitchen, and he takes on tasks like caring for the plants in the garden or cleaning out the storage room. They've never asked for money. After my husband passed away, when I was at my lowest, they would come to chat or take me out for afternoon tea at a hotel. They always tried to lift my spirits. Feeling guilty for the apparent favoritism, I once apologized to them. They smiled warmly and reassured me.
We both work part-time and don't have children, so it's no big deal for us.
I'm more than grateful for your hospitality whenever we visit, mother-in-law. Is that so? Thank you. In stark contrast, my eldest son's wife constantly makes demands, as if it's my duty to fulfill them. If I show any hesitation, I immediately get a call from my grandchild. Grandma, please let us make some summer memories. I'm already in middle school. A compact car is too cramped for us. The travel fund and my savings aren't enough. It's hard to say no when pleaded with in such a sweet voice. That's how my eldest wife's son manipulates, making my grandchild call to coax money out of me, time and again. The last straw was a Sweet 16 party that cost $10,000. When I tried to decline due to the exorbitant cost, she exploded over the phone. Don't you care about your only grandchild? You know we don't make much, right? This is a special occasion. Just give us the money without making a fuss. If they're aware that their income is limited, why not take some initiative, like getting regular jobs or even a side gig? They both never quit their jobs. That's why they never get a raise, right? I wanted to say that, but I didn't want to turn it into a mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law showdown, so I just gave them the money. It's not that I mind spending money on my grandchild. It's the entitled attitude from my eldest son and his family that bothers me. Despite constantly asking me for things, my daughter-in-law treats me poorly. As winter was ending, I got a message over the weekend saying, I want to go to Grandma's house. My grandchild mentioned craving shrimp gratin. Tired but determined, I went shopping and made a special meal for the family. They walked in barely saying hello, made themselves at home on the living room couch, and started using their phones or watching TV. Could you bring us some snacks? Sure, I'll bring some cookies. I questioned why the daughter-in-law couldn't make coffee for her own family, but told myself they were guests and prepared the coffee. This has been the pattern since the grandchild was small. They show up right before payday, eat dinner, take a bath, enjoy some beer or juice and snacks, and leave without cleaning up. They don't help with dishes or say thank you. He doesn't even ask. He just takes loads of stuff every time, from daily necessities to groceries. You'd think he could just ask me, but no, he takes things without saying a word. I've just been letting it go, thinking that protesting would be pointless. But having to repurchase everything from groceries to daily necessities is both cumbersome and a real hassle. Dinner's ready. Would you like to eat in the living room? I called out, but no one looked up from their phones.
You're slow. Just bring it already.
Even though I'm inwardly annoyed by my eldest son's domineering attitude, I bring meals for 3 people into the living room. Just as I'm about to head back to the kitchen, my eldest son's wife calls out to me. Your voice sounds strange, mother-in-law. Do you have a cold? Yes, my throat's a bit sore, and I'm feeling sluggish. Don't get us sick, okay? My daughter-in-law said, making a face as she started to eat. I was foolish to expect a kind word. And after dinner, they all just sat there, each engrossed in their phones. Not a word of thanks, not a hint of wanting to help clean up. I was surprised at how disappointed I felt. I had still been hoping for something better from my son and his wife. I shuttled between the kitchen and the living room, separated by a sliding door, to put away the dishes for 3 people in the sink. I wash the dishes and make fresh tea for 4. I place my own glass on the dining table and carry the rest to the living room. Just as I'm about to open the sliding door, I hear my eldest son's wife speaking in a displeased tone. So how much longer is mother-in-law staying in this house?
What do you mean?
This place has an old house, but the land is huge, and it's in a great location. I'd love to live here, Mom. Our current apartment is way too small. Ew, no way I'm living with an old person.
Look, Ariel, why don't we take the house and put Mom in some facility?
That works, but only after we make her gift us the house legally. It'll be a problem if she becomes senile. That's so mean, Mom. Well, she might agree if you ask her, Melody. And if she chooses the facility now, she can pick one she likes.
So I'll go find a good senior living facility for you. Can't miss out on Grandpa's $700 million inheritance.
Thank you, huh? Having mother-in-law is like having an ATM. Withdraw cash whenever you want, huh?
You got it. It's a lifesaver having rich parents.
I felt like collapsing right there as the three of them laughed. I wobbled over to the dining table and set down my glass and slumped into a chair. I have to say, I'm pretty spry for 82. My mental age feels like it's in the 50s, and my daily routine involves walking. I shop using public transportation or my bike, and I handle daily chores alone. I was considering making my home more accessible, but who knew my eldest son and his family would plan to take over the house? Soon enough, a sliding door opened, and an angry voice boomed. Mother-in-law, where's my tea? I'm not feeling well. Get it yourself. Ugh, this is why I can't stand old people. Can't you be hospitable to your guests? Rolling her eyes and mumbling just loud enough for me to hear, my daughter-in-law left with my son and granddaughter, leaving the living room a mess. Alone again. I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. I always feel worn out after they visit, but this time was especially draining. Tears flooded my eyes as I remembered their heartless words and actions. How could they think that way? Where did I go wrong raising my eldest son? My chest ached with shame and regret. After shedding some tears, a wave of anger surged within me. I clenched my fists. I won't let them get away with this. They'll regret their actions. Just you wait. A month later, a memorial service was held at the church, marking 10 years since my husband passed away. Afterwards, as relatives dispersed in the parking lot, I told my eldest son and second son and their wives, I'm remodeling the house. My daughter-in-law then piped up. Remodeling at your age? Yes, I want my son to inherit this home filled with memories of his father. I need to start the gifting process. Really? Now? Standing next to her beaming parents, my granddaughter chimes in with a cozy smile. Grandma, we are thinking about moving into a single-family home soon. Our apartment feels cramped with 3 of us. Even though she's already 20, she still uses a sugary tone when she's asking for something from me. Is that so? My eldest son and his wife exchanged glances, nodding as if they'd just confirmed something. By the way, mother-in-law, how's your health? You were bedridden with a cold, right? Thankful for my daughter-in-law's concern, I managed to smile. I'm better now, thank you. My recovery was slower than I'd like. Oh, no, you keep us updated. You want pity because you're living alone at your age, right? The expression on my younger son's face changes as his older brother's wife smirks and lets her words fly.
Excuse me, sister-in-law?
Ignoring her brother-in-law's attempt to stop her, she hops into the car, rolls down the passenger side window, and shouts with a laugh. Grandma's our piggy bank. From now on, just contact us for major life events, okay? And let us know once you've sorted out the living trust. Standing beside my shocked younger son and his wife, I give in and respond, all right, understood. Afterwards, while calming down my angered younger son and his wife, they drove me home. For a while, I didn't hear from my older son's family. I began renovating my house as declared and proceeded with various preparations. Then I invited my younger son and his wife over to talk. And surprisingly, my older son's family showed up uninvited.
Sorry, Mom. I casually mentioned to my brother that you had finished the home renovations, and they insisted on coming.
I shrugged my shoulders at my apologetic younger son. It's fine. Let's also talk about the living trust while we're at it. My older son's family, particularly his wife, were inexplicably in high spirits. You have to let us know right away, mother-in-law. It's our house after all. She forcefully pats my back and shoves past me to take a look around. They surveyed the newly styled kitchen and dining area and looked delighted at the spacious living room. The wife gestured and complimented. The other room still looks outdated, but this living room is amazing, mother-in-law. You actually have good taste. This Nordic interior suits us, right, Melody? Yeah, let's replace this old sofa with a branded one, and some houseplants. Oh, my room's upstairs, right? As my granddaughter started to head upstairs, I stopped her. Melody, it's rude to wander around someone else's house. You're an adult. You should know that. Taken aback by my uncharacteristically stern tone, she turns and freezes. My older son's wife immediately snaps. What's the big deal, mother-in-law? This will be our house soon. Who said I was giving this house to you? What? But Mom. Their faces crumpled in confusion. This house will go to my younger son and his wife. Upon hearing this, the younger couple who were sitting on the sofa looked visibly stunned. After a pause, my older son and his family close in to protest. What? That's absurd. The eldest son should get the parents' inheritance. The law divides inheritance equally among siblings. Remember, I also received half of your father's inheritance, and you both shared the other half. Do we? We've long spent it, so I don't remember. Exactly. That's why I'm giving all the land that I inherited from your father to your younger brother. In that moment, the eldest son's wife showed a devilish expression. You're giving him all the $700 million worth of assets? That's insane. It's only right that the eldest son should inherit everything. No, it should be split equally among the siblings, I said coldly, cutting off the eldest couple's rant. Do you really think you get anything after constantly disregarding me? You both are audacious. The couple stood there, mouths agape, pale as ghosts. Clearly, they thought they'd get it all. As for the younger son and his wife, their eyes were wide in surprise. Mom, are you sure it's all right for me to inherit everything, including the house and the land? Yes, Mom-in-law. It's kind of overwhelming, honestly. The younger son's wife finally chimed in. Living in an apartment as we do, a house with a garden, feels like a dream. Is it okay if we move in? I mean, we're glad to help around the house, but won't it disrupt your peace? Don't worry. I'll be in an assisted living facility. Molly and others seem to have researched it, but I can find my own place, no worries. I took the opportunity to throw a barb at the meddlesome eldest couple. By the way, the renovation reflects your sister-in-law Tamika's taste, which luckily aligns with mine. Wow, it really is a comfortable space. You're giving it to us? I smiled warmly at my younger son and daughter-in-law, who were marveling at the interior. Some of the older rooms, like his study, are still there. Is that all right? Absolutely, Mom. It's great that places we played in as kids are still here. We'll take good care of this sofa. It's a vintage piece you bought when you were newlyweds. The warm smiles on their faces warmed my heart, too. This house is filled with memories from our early marriage. I'd be happy if you cherish it. I'll leave the land management to Jesse and Tamika as well. But right next to us, the eldest son's wife screamed. Ah! You've got to be kidding! I won't stand for this! She glared at us, me, my younger son, and his wife. How could you possibly decide to give it all to them and not us? You dangled the idea of a living will, so I thought we'd inherit a lot. She began to yap like an unruly puppy. We even showed you our grandkids' faces from time to time, including a welfare check on you. What a waste of time and gas. The audacity of my eldest son's wife's gesture made even someone as patient as me lose my temper. I slapped her hand away, and she blinked in surprise, staring at me. Nobody asked you to come, so mind your own business. I stared her down, raising my voice. You show up before payday and make me cook dinner. You don't lift a finger, don't say thank you, and you even sneak out a ton of my groceries and household supplies. The nerve of you! My younger son and his wife looked at the eldest son's couple incredulous. You were planning to ship me off to a facility after remodeling the house, weren't you? You've been siphoning money from me for years, using the grandkids as an excuse. Have some shame. She was probably shocked because it was the first time she'd seen me raise my voice. Everyone in the room held their breath, all eyes on me. Even I have the right to choose who gets my assets. There's no way I'm leaving anything to my irresponsible eldest son and his wife. Then my daughter-in-law lifted her head. Her expression had shifted from defiant to desperate. But we're in trouble. We maxed out our credit cards relying on that $7 million in the living trust from you.
And I bought a new car. What are we going to do?
If you were relying on your parents' money, that's your own fault. So you want us to go bankrupt? She clawed at her hair and started to yell hysterically. You're Hollis's mom, right? We're family. We're in trouble, so you should give us money. Fulfill your duty as an ATM. Mom, just stop it. While my grandchild stepped in between my eldest son's wife and me, I quickly pulled out my phone and got to work. I sent an image to a group chat that included the 5 of us who were present. As everyone's phones buzzed in unison, everyone but me checked their screens and simultaneously exclaimed,
What? Ariel?
What? Why did this get sent to me? Is this for real?
Oh my God!
It's no wonder they were shocked. The video showed my daughter-in-law acting in an unthinkable manner. I played the video on my phone for everyone to see. Starting next month, I'll be the store manager, so let's let loose a little. There she was, my eldest son's wife, gleefully standing at the cash register of my own workplace in her uniform. She chugged down a can of beer in one go. Then she began greedily devouring the snacks, sandwiches, and deli items laid out on the counter. It's fine, I'll pay for it. It's just $25. With a smile, she blurted something into her mobile phone, and the video came to an end. Faced with cold stares from the family, my eldest son's wife offered an awkward excuse, forcing a smile. It's okay. I was really hungry, and I paid for it.
You're kidding, right? Eating and drinking is prohibited in the store, especially during work hours.
My son was not amused. It's okay. I only sent it to my partner. But what if he leaks it online? I shook my head in disbelief. I felt sorry for my son and granddaughter, who were searching the internet with solemn faces. Don't worry. The original video has already been deleted.
Really? How do you know?
A friend of Ariel's, who's also a friend of mine, showed it to me. Remember the barbecue we had when Melody was little? Oh, yeah. I showed the video to the store manager when I visited. He deleted it right in front of me, saying it was a lesson for Ariel.
And then?
I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Can you believe this old hag? The oldest son's wife lunged at me in fury, only to be quickly pulled away by the second son. Smoothing out the wrinkles on my collar, I spoke to her with icy detachment. You're almost 60, aren't you? Can't you tell right from wrong? You don't even think about how you're affecting the family. I'm truly disappointed. But what are we going to do now? I was supposed to get a pay raise and bonuses as a manager. And we'd be able to buy all the designer stuff we wanted. You've ruined everything. She cried and muttered, to which I replied, Why not take your complaints to the manager and apologize, though I doubt you'll be forgiven. Darn you, you'll regret this. Fuming, she left the house in a huff. The remaining eldest son clung to me, his face pale, his eyes filled with tears.
What should I do? We won't be able to pay our condo rent anymore. Mom, I apologize for the awful things I've said. Please help me out.
I have no money to give you. This conversation is over. Go home. Dad, let's give it up. Though his daughter tried to pull him away, he remained as rooted to the floor as if he had grown roots. This time, he turned to his younger brother, desperation in his voice.
Hey, Jesse, even if it's just 1/3, could you share some of Grandpa's land with me? No way. You ignored Mom, and now you dare ask?
Shaking off his brother's grip, the eldest son collapsed onto the floor, his voice weak.
This is bad. I'm heading for bankruptcy.
Come on, Dad. Let's go home. Stop making a scene. Prompted by his daughter, my eldest son left with his shoulders slumped. In that moment, she seemed to have aged significantly. Though my eldest son's wife eventually apologized, it was too late. The opportunity for her to become the store manager was rescinded, and she was forced to resign immediately. According to my eldest son, she had been racking up debt, buying designer clothes and bags on credit cards. To pay off her debts, she not only worked daytime shifts but also took on extra work at night, essentially working around the clock. My eldest son, who had taken out a car loan, assuming he would receive financial help from me, sadly had to sell the car. Even then, they couldn't catch up on repaying her debts and eventually couldn't afford their apartment rent, moving to a rundown apartment instead. My granddaughter, who was the only one leading a decent life, working in retail, ended up having a big fight with her parents over taking on their debts and moved to a different apartment. She had once ridiculed me along with her parents, but she had lost all patience with her mother's excessive shopping and her disturbing workplace behavior. She even blocked calls from both parents when her father, my eldest son, started asking her for money. My eldest son admitted that he has no idea where she is or what she's doing now. There's tension between the couple, and although divorce has been discussed, they've opted for an in-house separation due to the cost of living apart in their cramped apartment. It's a pitiful situation, and it filled me with sympathy. Having transferred my house to my younger son and his wife and completed the gifting process for the land inherited from my father, I moved into an independent living facility for seniors that I had previously applied to. Here, I'm living a relaxed life, growing flowers and watching movies on my computer. I sometimes go shopping with friends I've made here, or have coffee and chats with my younger son and his wife who come to visit. I blocked contact with my eldest son and his wife after their messages begging for money became overwhelming. Now I have no more worries about being exploited as their unpaid housekeeper, or them siphoning off my money. I plan to spend the rest of my life peacefully, watching over my kind-hearted younger son and his wife.
I'm Michelle. I usually work from home, but once a month I travel for work. Another exhausting trip. I'm off tomorrow, so I'm planning to unwind with a massage and then hit the sack. Just as I was thinking this and about to unlock my front door, for some reason, the chain lock is on the door. I live in a high-rise apartment downtown with my husband Ryan. We have been married for 3 years. I assumed he got home before me. "Hey Ryan, you home, right?" I called out to my husband Ryan. No answer from inside, but I hear the TV from the back room. He is definitely in there. Feeling certain, I call out louder. "Ryan, it's me, Michelle. The chain lock is on, so could you unlock it?" Suddenly, I hear heavy footsteps approach, and a face peers through the door gap. It's my mother-in-law. "Would you quit yelling? You're disturbing the neighbors." "What? Mother-in-law? Is there a problem if it's me?" "No, I just wasn't expecting you." "Huh. Well, this is a good time to tell you you need to leave this place." I'm stunned by her sudden declaration. More importantly, this is my apartment. Yes, I bought this high-rise apartment and I'm the one paying the mortgage and everything. Why would I have to leave? Confused, I managed to ask mother-in-law, why should I leave? You wouldn't get it, you homebody." "Homebody?" "In short, this apartment now belongs to me." "What? What do you mean?" "I changed the title to my name so you can't enter this room." Mother-in-law says this with a triumphant look. I'm speechless, but one thing's for sure, I'm not at fault here. There's no point in arguing when I'm already tired. It seems like we should discuss this calmly. I asked mother-in-law, "So you really want me to leave?" "Yes, that's what I've been saying. Just go already." "Understood." "Huh? You're surprisingly agreeable." Arguing is a hassle. Excuse me. With that, I stepped back into the elevator. Come to think of it, mother-in-law has always had it out for me, like when I went to Ryan's family meeting. Mother-in-law bluntly told me, "I can't live with you." Well, I never said I wanted to live with you either. As I replied, mother-in-law retorted as if I were a back-talking child. "It doesn't matter what you think. I don't want to live with you." I see. "If you have an issue with it, we can call off the engagement." What is she talking about? I thought to myself. Anyway, it's clear mother-in-law doesn't want to live with me. Well, that makes things simple. I get what you're saying, mother-in-law. "So you're breaking up the engagement?" Mother-in-law sneered. "No, I meant we won't live together." "Oh, okay then." Mother-in-law looked displeased. I was really ticked off. If you really want to cancel the engagement, just say you don't approve of the marriage, I thought. As if she heard my thoughts, mother-in-law shouted, "Fine, I don't approve of the marriage." "Why not? I also agree we shouldn't live together." She didn't seem to have a reason. Maybe she just likes complaining. Fortunately, father-in-law intervened and sorted things out. But mother-in-law continued to oppose our marriage, like when I brought up the age difference. Actually, I'm older than. As soon as I said that, mother-in-law became furious. An older wife? That's unthinkable. Will you really be submissive to your husband? The idea of a woman being submissive to a man is outdated. It's all about equality now. There is no rule that a wife should be submissive to her husband or that younger people should obey older ones. We're supposed to support each other in life. That's what modern marriage is all about. But it seems like mother-in-law doesn't see it that way. She thinks a wife should be younger and always follow her husband's lead. What an old-fashioned mindset she has. In any case, our perspectives were too different. My mother-in-law didn't like me, that much was clear. And so the tension between my mother-in-law and me continued to linger. How can I counteract this? After pondering, I chose to live in a high-rise condo. Ryan agreed to the arrangement provided I handle the mortgage. I knew it wasn't a small commitment financially speaking, but I wanted to send a clear message to my mother-in-law that cohabiting was off the table, and it worked. She stopped criticizing me. However, this only meant she stopped complaining about our living arrangements and marriage. She still didn't like me. So every once in a while, she would visit and start criticizing me, most annoyingly about household chores. In her mind, I was a stay-at-home wife who neglected housework. That's far from the truth. I'm a travel magazine writer. I even travel on site once a month for stories. But I spend the majority of my time in front of a computer, so if mother-in-law sees me, she assumes I'm not working. Our visits usually turn into arguments because of this. You have time to play, so do some housework. I am actually working right now. What? You're just messing around on your computer. No, I'm working. You're really bad at lying. Work is something you do at an office. At first, I would always argue that I was working, but as these confrontations became routine, they grew tiresome. I mean, we're not living together, so a bit of patience won't hurt. If I can just get through this now, the rest will sort itself out. Arguing is a waste of time, so I started brushing her off. My mother-in-law didn't seem to find this amusing. She started telling me, you neither work nor do chores. You're lazy. Get out. You're in the way. Though she's not a permanent resident in my home, she still visits, so I've started ignoring her completely. It feels like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. However, one thing still concerns me. That's the relationship between Ryan and my mother-in-law. Ryan and his mother are close. That's not a bad thing, but they have stayed close even after Ryan and I got married. Of course, they're family, so I can't say they shouldn't be close, but there is a limit to everything. When I'm away on assignments, they meet secretly at our house. If they were open about it, it would be fine, but sneaking around makes me wonder if they're up to something. Are they talking behind my back? Are they plotting to kick me out? These dark thoughts have crossed my mind. Just the other day, I had a rare overseas business trip. I was heading to Southeast Asia, assigned by my editors to write an article targeting the holiday season. When I told Ryan about the trip, he said, "Lucky you, getting to travel overseas for work? It's not a vacation, it's for an assignment." "But you'll be touring tourist spots, right?" "Well, yes, but then it's almost like a vacation." Ryan seemed simply envious. Sure, an overseas trip can be fun if there's time, but usually the schedule is packed and there's hardly time to shop for souvenirs, so it's not all that glamorous. I tried explaining this to Ryan, but he didn't get it. "I wouldn't understand your world. Makes me realize how mundane my life is." He seemed genuinely envious, but that didn't ease my concerns. What if they're conspiring against me when I'm gone? What would I do in that situation? My mind raced with these thoughts. Feeling anxious, I wanted to consult someone. That's it. The lawyer our editorial department has on retainer might listen to my concerns. So I consulted with Lauren, a female lawyer who our department contracts with. And that's what's been happening. After listening, Lauren thought for a moment and said, "If anything happens, I'll handle it." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. However, it will be a separate fee from the department's contract." "That's no problem." And so I gained a powerful ally. Feeling reassured, I went on my business trip, and when I got back, I faced mother-in-law's new attitude. She was talking about changing the house title and telling me, the homeowner, to move out. Unbelievable! I had reached the end of my rope. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to give my mother-in-law a piece of my mind. Kicked out of my own home by my mother-in-law, I yelled this while alone in the elevator. Once out of the high-rise apartment, I immediately called Lauren. I explained what had happened. Lauren told me, "All right, let's sort this out tomorrow." Can you do that? Yes, I had no plans tomorrow anyway. Thank you so much. So it was settled. Lauren and I would confront my mother-in-law together. I stayed in a business hotel near the train station that night to prepare for the following day. After a good night's sleep, I met up with Lauren near the station. We went over our plans in detail at a nearby family restaurant. After that, I contacted someone, and then Lauren and I headed to my house. When I rang the doorbell, I heard my mother-in-law's voice. Hello? Hello? She popped her head out, visibly pleased. Hello, mother-in-law. Oh, I thought it was a delivery. Too bad, we're coming in. No, you can't. You left on your own. This is my house. If you refuse, I'll call the police right here. I said this as a final warning, but she didn't seem to care. She boldly told us, The police? Go ahead and call them. Didn't I tell you that the house is in my name? This is going nowhere, I thought, and made eye contact with Lauren. Lauren nodded and asked, May we have a moment? What do you want? I'm Lauren, Michelle's attorney. I'm here at her request. And why would an attorney come? It's a delicate matter, so perhaps inside would be best. I refuse. I won't let strangers into my home. That should be my line. As I thought this, Lauren sighed and said, Fine, let's let the neighbors hear about your crime. My mother-in-law's face changed color. Suddenly flustered, she said to me, Michelle, make her stop talking. That's not happening. All you have to do is let us in. Ugh, fine, come in. Mother-in-law backed down and I could finally return home, but let's be clear, this is just the beginning. Walking into the living room pumped up, I found Ryan laughing in front of the TV. Mom, where's the luggage? Ryan looks up. I'm back, Ryan. What, Michelle? What's with that reaction? Got something to hide? No, you said you left, so I'm just surprised is all. Fine, whatever. Ryan, come over here. I gestured and Ryan reluctantly got up and sat at the table. So here we were, sitting across from mother-in-law and her gang, and the conversation began. In the tense atmosphere, mother-in-law was the first to speak. Bold of you to come back home under these circumstances. Well, it's my house. As I retorted, mother-in-law's face turned sour. For the last time, it's my house now. The ownership's been transferred. Is that true? When I questioned her, mother-in-law treated me coldly. Of course, changing house ownership is easy. Guess you wouldn't know being a shut-in. Mother-in-law had a smug smile. When I looked at Lauren, she questioned mother-in-law. Earlier, you mentioned changing the house ownership. Are you sure about that? Don't act all high and mighty just because you're a lawyer. Stop making me repeat myself. Then who prepared the quitclaim deed? I did. Mother-in-law seemed a bit flustered. I quickly realized she was lying. But Lauren saw a different issue. In this case, the current owner, Michelle, would have to create and sign the deed. So you forged it? Forged? Yes. That's document forgery, and I will report you to the authorities. Wait a minute. That's not true. I had someone do the paperwork. Who? A liar I know. I had a hunch that this was a lie too, but for Lauren, whether it was a lie or not didn't seem to matter. Lauren kept the conversation going in a composed manner. So let's talk more about this lawyer later. Mother-in-law looked visibly relieved. However, this respite is short-lived. Lauren doesn't let up. Next, let's discuss the matter of the mortgage. The mortgage? Yes, the home loan, in simple terms, the remaining balance. I don't know anything about that. If there is an outstanding mortgage, changing the property title is a breach of contract. You would have to pay the remaining balance in full. You didn't know that? Well, you changed the property title without even knowing these details? No, it's not that. Michelle said she would give it to me. This is ridiculous. No one would give away a home they're living in. And we have only been living here for a few years with a mortgage still being paid off. Mother-in-law's claims makes no sense. But Lauren has a different angle. So you're saying the property was transferred to you? Yes, transferred. That's right. It was given to me. Mother-in-law brazenly declares this. Lauren then brings out a calculator. If it was transferred, you will need to pay federal taxes. Please provide the details. Federal taxes? Depending on the property value, it could be a substantial amount. Lauren flashes a knowing smile. Meanwhile, mother-in-law and Ryan exchange pale-faced glances. The next moment, mother-in-law changes her tune. No, that's not it. I bought it from Michelle. There are no federal taxes when you buy, right? Either way, you'll need to pay property taxes. Maybe you should consult your lawyer for specifics. A lawyer? Whether it was transferred or purchased, you will still need to pay taxes. Lauren is blunt about it. When mother-in-law and Ryan can't respond, Lauren asks, "What will you do?" They remain utterly silent. After a few awkward minutes, mother-in-law finally speaks. I apologize. I lied about changing the property title. So you were lying after all? I shout at mother-in-law, who shrinks back and says, No, I didn't mean to deceive. What did you mean then? Well, I was trying to cause a divorce. Mother-in-law began to explain why she had done all this. The story dates back to the day before I left for an overseas business trip. That day, mother-in-law had a petty argument with father-in-law. Tit for tat, the argument quickly escalated. Father-in-law shouted at mother-in-law, I'm sick of you always wasting money. What are you talking about? I'm sick of you not making enough money too. What did you say? I said go earn more money. That's it. I want a divorce. And just like that, the in-laws decided to divorce, but then mother-in-law had a moment of clarity. Even though she complained about father-in-law not making enough, they had been living comfortably on his income. If they divorced, she would have to live on her savings alone. That would definitely decrease her quality of life. I don't want that. How can I maintain my lifestyle? After much thought, she concluded that moving in with us was the answer. But when I got married, I made it clear we wouldn't live together. I can't go back on my word now. After weighing her options, she decided to kick me out and live just with Ryan. So Ryan, you agree with mother-in-law to kick me out? Ryan stammered. Mother-in-law prodded Ryan. Come on, Ryan agreed, didn't he? Speak clearly. Say you want a divorce. Despite mother-in-law's encouragement, Ryan couldn't bring himself to say it. I know why Ryan couldn't say it outright. If mother-in-law knew the reason, she would never suggest I divorce him. But after being treated this poorly, there's no way I could forgive them, so I brought up divorce first. Fine, let's get a divorce. Oh, finally, Michelle and I agree on something. See? Even mother-in-law says so. Let's use this opportunity to divorce. Ryan looked down and silently nodded. Thinking I had won, I looked at Lauren. Lauren pulled out the divorce papers from her bag and said, Here are the divorce papers. I'll go over them, so please sign here.
Okay.
Ryan quietly responded. We signed the divorce papers right then and there. Continuing from the previous scenario, I watched with a smirk. Finally, Ryan finished signing the divorce papers and handed them over. Is this good enough? I confirmed the signature with Lauren. So, you are officially divorced now. Lauren placed the divorce papers into her bag. At that moment, mother-in-law raised her voice. Now Michelle is a stranger to us. Get out immediately. Why should I? Smiling wickedly, mother-in-law said, You initiated the divorce, so as compensation, I'll take this house. But you were the one who first mentioned divorce, weren't you? Huh? I don't know anything about that. Mother-in-law feigned innocence, but it was so blatant it was almost refreshing. Regardless, I had no intention of paying her a dime, so I told her, This all started because of your lie, mother-in-law. Let's talk about compensation. No way, we're not paying you a single cent. Tell her, Ryan. Mother-in-law nudges Ryan. Then Ryan, who had been silent, suddenly stands up.
Yeah. Since the divorce is finalized, maybe I should say something.
You're suddenly confident? I asked, and Ryan pulled out photos from his pocket and started ranting.
Michelle, you said you were on a business trip overseas, but you were actually having an affair, weren't you?
What? An affair?
This is the evidence, this photo.
Ryan slammed the photo onto the table with a thud. A photo? I looked at the photo puzzled. Indeed, I was in it, along with a photographer from the editorial department.
Is this guy your lover? I have been following you. I saw you two getting cozy. You cheated.
He's just a photographer from the editorial department. He was there to take photos.
Liar, I saw it myself.
Ryan insisted. I sighed. This might be more trouble than I thought. Just then, Lauren muttered, This isn't proof of infidelity.
What did you say?
All these photos show that you are together. If you say you were doing an interview, there is no denying that.
So what? Just being together is enough. It's cheating.
In light of Ryan's words, I had reached the end of my rope. Slowly, I placed my laptop on the table and opened it so that both Ryan and my mother-in-law could see the screen.
What's that?
Ryan asked me. With an icy stare, I retorted, I knew you were following me. I have pictures taken by a photographer to prove it. Immediately, I showed them the saved photos to my laptop. Ryan, arm in arm with another woman. Even more shocking, the location was the beach at the tourist spot we had visited for a report.
What's this all about?
I was stunned to find you in these pictures taken by the photographer while capturing landscapes. You in the middle of an affair.
No, it's not what it looks like. She was just helping me tail you.
Oh, so being together means an affair, right? Thinking he was putting me on the spot, Ryan had shot himself in the foot with his own words. He was left speechless, but I wasn't going to let it go that easily. You can't even hold down a job, yet you find the time to cheat? Expect a bill for damages. When I said that, my mother-in-law started to object. It's your fault for being cheated on. Men who work for major corporations face a lot of temptations. Oh, sure. A grocery store is a major corporation in its own right. A grocery store? Yes, Ryan works at a grocery store. He's just a part-time employee. What? A major corporation, you said? That was Ryan's big lie. I can't believe it. My mother-in-law was floored. By the way, I have invited that woman here as well. The three of you can sort this out. A few minutes later, the woman from the photo arrived at my house. In truth, I had arranged for a staff member to make contact with the woman under the guise of an interview. I had already arranged for her to come here before I even showed up by getting her contact details under the guise of thanking her. Needless to say, she and Ryan had quite the argument. She didn't even know that Ryan was married. He had told her I was his sister. Eventually, the police got involved and Ryan was forced to quit his part-time job. Last I heard, Ryan and his penniless mother had moved to an apartment they could barely afford with their small savings. They're scraping by with day-to-day jobs, but who knows how long that will last. Either way, it's none of my business anymore. As for me, I have divorced and I'm feeling light as a feather. For the foreseeable future, I'm focusing on my work and trying to forget about that cheating man.
My name is Mariah. I'm turning 45 this summer. I live with my 92-year-old granny. Granny is both physically and mentally in great shape, living each day peacefully. I owe so much to her and my late granddad. They're the ones who raised me after all, but something happened that exploited my gratitude, and it was like a nightmare. Today, I want to share that story with you. I have an older sister named Christine, who's 3 years older than me. Christine is brilliant and skilled at everything she does. My parents had high hopes for her, enrolling her in all sorts of activities with enthusiasm. In contrast, I was always shy and never talented. My parents were noticeably distant with me. I still remember the time my parents and Christine started to act as if I didn't exist. Eventually, Christine got accepted into one of the top middle schools in the country. Due to the commute, the whole family decided to move, except they didn't take me with them. Instead, they left me with my grandparents, granddad and granny, who lived in the countryside. By that time, I was already used to how my family treated me. I was more relieved to be away from my family than sad. My grandparents welcomed me warmly into their home. I made good friends at school and enjoyed every day. After high school, without any specific goals, I decided to move to the city and find a job. I got a part-time job at a clothing store where I had good coworkers and enjoyed my work. Soon enough, I was put in charge of managing a store. In the midst of all this, I lost touch with Granddad and Granny due to my busy life. One day, out of the blue, my cell phone rang, showing a number I didn't recognize. I answered, and even though the voice was raspy, there was no doubt it was my mom's voice. Let me tell you, joy was the last thing on my mind. Mom's words were empty as she steered the conversation here and there. It was all fluff, with her obviously just trying to gauge my mood. Eager to end the chat, I mumbled some responses and hung up. Then, another call came in from yet another unknown number. This time it was Christine. Apparently, she still lived with my parents. She was fuming about me hanging up with Mom and starting laying into me. I had enough, so I hung up. And then, Granddad fainted. I couldn't believe my ears. Cutting Christine's rant short, I insisted she spill the details. Turned out, my granddad had fallen while working in the garden and was now in the hospital. Granny was with him, so nobody was at their home. I made up an excuse, ended the call, and tried to reach my grandparents' home. I couldn't trust a word from the family that abandoned me, but no one picked up. I had no choice but to believe them right now. I called Christine back, and it was clear she was still miffed. I didn't mention the fact that I called my grandparents. Instead, I asked where Granddad was hospitalized. Christine murmured something but didn't give me a straight answer. Instead, she said, "Granddad's medical bills are through the roof. Can you send us some money?" What happened to him? No matter how many times I asked about Granddad, Christine only talked about money. "We're the ones taking care of him. You, Mariah, haven't done anything, so you should at least contribute financially," she shouted. I'm livid, but she wasn't wrong. In the end, I promised to send them money.
"You're a manager, aren't you? You can send at least $1,000, right?"
Those were my dad's words. After all this time, the first conversation with me was about money. I was overwhelmed with loneliness and frustration and couldn't say a word. "We're going through a lot too, so remember that." With that piercing remark, my mom hung up. Why couldn't she just say she was sorry? Unable to control my emotions any longer, I ended the call. From then on, I started sending $1,000 each month to my family. Being a manager didn't mean I was rolling in money. Still, for the sake of my dear granddad, I worked hard to make ends meet. My salary wasn't enough, so I took up a night job. After closing my clothing store, I would rush to my part-time job. I worked in a warehouse, picking orders until the early morning, then I'd go home. I would manage a quick nap of about 2 hours, take a shower, and dash out the door. Day after day, I worked almost around the clock. I would inevitably fall ill sometimes from pushing myself too hard, but it wasn't something I could share with anyone. I convinced myself it was my burden to bear, and I shouldered it alone. I gritted my teeth and worked like crazy just to send money home. Whenever I had a spare moment, I'd call my family to check on Granddad's health. Apparently, his condition wasn't stable. Sometimes he was fine, other times he was bedridden. They still wouldn't tell me which hospital he was in. Even if I knew, I couldn't afford to go there. In the end, there was very little I could do. Then, one day after living like this, I collapsed from overwork. I blacked out at the clothing shop where I worked, and the next thing I knew, I was lying in a hospital bed. I had been unconscious for about a week. When I woke up, a young nurse looked at me with a complicated expression. When I asked why, she awkwardly looked away. The nurse had immediately contacted my family after I was admitted, but no one came to see me. The nurse seemed to pity my situation. To me, it was normal, but I guess it's unthinkable for most people. Once I felt a bit better, I was allowed to use my cell phone. When the nurse handed it to me, it was turned off. When I asked her why, she said it had died because of the numerous incoming calls. Confused, I borrowed a charger and powered up my phone. There were over 100 missed calls, all from Christine. Startled by what I'd never seen before, I called Christine back, and then, "Where's the money?" From the get-go, Christine raised her voice in anger. Christine was furious because I hadn't sent this month's money. While I was in the hospital, the day I usually would send money had passed. I immediately apologized and explained my situation. Then she snapped. "I know you're in the hospital, but you can still send money." I felt a chill run down my spine. The nurse must have told her about my condition. Christine was demanding money, fully aware of my situation. What a terrible family. I just agreed on a new date for the transfer and hung up. 4 years after I started sending money, my beloved granddad passed away. Or rather, he had already passed away. I found out about granddad's passing through a phone call from a friend who lives in my hometown. Apparently, they found it strange that I hadn't attended the funeral and decided to give me a call. Yes, I had been kept completely in the dark about granddad's condition. I learned about it a month after the funeral had already taken place. During that time, I was still sending money. Struggling to come to terms with my feelings, I called Christine. "I've been busy with my wedding, so I couldn't get in touch." Really? That's her excuse? I wanted to lash out at Christine right then and there, but I felt all the strength drain from my body, and I collapsed onto the floor. Half of me was devastated by Christine's attitude. The other half felt relieved that the money transfer was over. I no longer wanted to talk to Christine and was about to hang up the phone. That's when she casually said, "By the way, Grandma fainted." At this point, my anger exploded. "Stop lying!" Before I knew it, I was shouting. Then Christine retorted, "If you say it's a lie, go ahead and stop sending money. What do you think will happen to Grandma if you stop sending money?" It was almost like blackmail, but if Granny really had collapsed, what could I say? "Tell me which hospital she's in." "All visits are suspended. No one can see her right now," she responded. I couldn't trust Christine's words, but I also had no definitive proof that she was lying. "You, a high school dropout, should just keep sending money and keep quiet." Laughing, Christine ended the call. From then on, no one in the family would pick up my calls. But on the scheduled remittance day, Christine always called to say, "Send the money quickly." Before I realized it, 20 years had passed since I started sending money. I am now over 40, completely missing my marriageable years. For 2 decades, my life had been nothing but earning money. I've collapsed multiple times, forced myself back up, and sprinted through days in a daze. All the sacrifices were because I wanted Granny to get well. But I've hit my limit. That day, I took a break from my night shift. Returning home from the shop, I crumpled onto the living room floor. Just when I thought I'd drift into deep sleep, the doorbell rang. I felt like staying in bed, drained from exhaustion. But I couldn't inconvenience the delivery person. Dragging my weary body, I managed to get to the front door to receive the package. I locked the front door and then found myself collapsing in the entranceway. How long was I out? I woke up lying there in the entryway. A package had fallen in front of me. Who could it be from? The moment I glanced at the label, I sprang to my feet in surprise. There it was, Granny's name, but she was supposed to be in the hospital. Upon closer inspection, the package was shipped from Switzerland, and right beside Granny's name was a phone number. Desperate, I grabbed my cell phone. "Hey, Mariah, how are you?" The voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in over 20 years, a comforting one. "Granny, are you okay?" "I've been fine all along. What's wrong?" There was no trace of illness in Granny's voice. I spilled the last 20 years to Granny. What I learned shocked me. It was true that Granddad had fallen ill, been hospitalized, and passed away, but since they were already wealthy, there were no concerns about hospital bills. My family never sent them a dime. Granny told me more about my family as I listened in disbelief. Christine, who was treated as a golden child, failed to secure a job after graduating college. Since then, she bounced from part-time job to part-time job, supported by my parents. They'd spoiled her so much, they couldn't even control her anymore. They now had their eyes set on Granddad's inheritance. Sensing this, Granddad transferred all his assets to Granny while he was still alive. After Granddad passed, Granny moved to Switzerland to visit some friends. It was to prevent a family feud over the inheritance. I had been swindled by my family for 20 years. Upon hearing my story, Granny was furious on my behalf. She promised she would help me. A few days later, I got a call from Christine. Hey, where's the money? Christine's tone was as aggressive as ever, but I calmly asked her back, What did you do with my money? Christine was obviously shaken. We're using it for Grandma. How, exactly? Stop pestering me. What's with all these questions all of a sudden? Sensing something, Christine handed the phone to Dad. Mariah, you shouldn't upset Christine. All I want to know is what happened to my money. Talking about money, I could tell Dad was also trying to hide something. His voice gave it away. Don't worry about it. Acting all high and mighty with your $1,000, you high school grad. So, should I stop sending you money? As I said that, Dad suddenly started to panic. You could tell just by his reaction. Christine quickly took the phone back. Stop sending us money? Are you kidding? I'm not kidding. You don't care what happens to Grandma? Yeah. My response must have shocked her, because Christine's voice was trembling. Go ahead, stop sending money if you dare. All right, will do. I cut her off and hung up. Christine continued to call me, but I never picked up. Half a year passed with this back and forth. It was a calm day. When I opened the window, a slightly chilly breeze came in. It felt like the beginning of fall. I stopped answering my family's calls, so now they're trying to reach out to me through social media and text messages. They seem desperate to get in touch. The messages were the same from everyone, so I reluctantly called. Hey, what have you been doing all this time? Christine was shouting, just as I had expected. It's hard to take care of Grandma without your financial support. Whoa, that sounds tough. What's with that attitude? When I sarcastically responded, Christine exploded even more. We had to take a $30,000 loan because of you. That's unfortunate. You're the guarantor, so make sure you pay. Christine seemed a bit more relaxed, but her threats didn't work on me anymore. That's fraud, isn't it? No one knows who signed it. I'm not even in America now, you know. Well, what? Christine lost it on the other side of the phone. If you don't provide the money, that's going to affect Grandma. Affect who? Granny, who had been listening to the conversation on speaker, joined in. You could hear the silence on the other end. You three have done something awful to Mariah, haven't you? No, it's not like that. Christine defensively responded, her voice strained. In the background, my parents were screaming. You'll be paying back that $30,000, Granny said, and then hung up the phone. The day after reconnecting with Granny for the first time in 20 years, I was busy preparing to move to Switzerland, breaking off ties with my family and living just with Granny. That was Granny's idea. Retirement paperwork went smoother than expected, and within 2 months, I was on my way to Switzerland. Sometime later, I heard from my relatives. Apparently, my parents reached out asking to borrow money. Turns out, Christine had squandered all the money I'd been sending. But that wasn't all. In addition to the $30,000, Christine had racked up more debts without telling our parents. Now they're struggling to pay it back, and the situation seems pretty bleak. However, that's no longer any of my business. Despite the very challenging years, now I live with my beloved Granny. I'm incredibly happy now, and we spend our days filled with laughter.
Out of control spending, that's my mother-in-law's only problem. My husband thinks,
Just lend her the money. She has no other joys in life.
but my savings are dwindling because of my mother-in-law. I can't go on like this. That's when I decided I had to make a sacrifice. My husband. My name is Betty, and I'm 28. John and I have been married for almost 2 years. We don't have kids yet, and we live a laid-back life, just the two of us. John is an office worker, and I primarily handle the household finances. He's a calm guy, never raises his voice or complains to me. His mom is basically a good person. When you hear the phrase mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, you might think of snide remarks and harassment, basically bullying the wife. But my mother-in-law doesn't dislike me. or dump household chores on me. She's far from a bully. Still, she has one major flaw. Out of control spending. That's my mother-in-law's only Achilles heel. She can't resist shopping online, making some purchase every single day. Just the other day, she excitedly told me, "Look, Betty, I bought this. They say it's a great supplement for your skin." Again, another supplement. You got something last week too, didn't you? Oh, did I? But this one has great reviews. It was $100 for a month's supply, but it must be effective. $100 for just a month? Isn't that way too much? Well, that's why it must be effective. I have to start taking it right away. Mother-in-law? Her spending is just off the charts. $100 per month on supplements is coming for her. She subscribed to multiple similar products. Unused health gadgets clutter the house. Whenever she buys something, she calls me over to brag about her new purchases. And guess who has to clean up all the boxes and packaging? Me. My mother-in-law uses mail order so much that she doesn't even know what she's buying. She orders so much that even she can't keep track. One day, while cleaning up the boxes, I found multiple duplicates of the same product. Some had already expired. That was the last straw. I had to confront her. Wait a minute. You have 6 of the same thing here. Oh! I remember buying this a while ago. How nostalgic. That's not the point. Half of them have already expired. What a waste. Expired? Oh my, I didn't notice. Well, nothing to do but throw them away. How many times has this happened? If you're not going to use it, stop buying the same stuff. Well, I can't help it. I buy based on inspiration at the moment. Every time I come here, there's more stuff. Even I can't keep track of what I've bought. This kind of spending was driving me to my wits' end. It's so frustrating. She's clearly wasting money and doesn't even realize it. What's more, my mother-in-law lives on a pension. Her husband passed away a few years ago, and now she lives alone. She even spent the small inheritance he left on online shopping. At first I thought, maybe she's just lonely. Lately, she's even started asking me for money. Betty, can we talk? What's going on? Well, money's tight this month. Again? I gave you money last month and the month before. Please, I won't make it until the next pension payment. That's because you buy everything online. Reconsider your spending habits before asking for money. Online shopping is my only joy. I'm at my wit's end with her, but I can't just leave her be. At least review your subscriptions and cancel what you don't need. It'll help. Are you trying to take away my hobbies and make me work in my old age? That's not what I mean. There's just too much unnecessary stuff in this house. Betty, don't be so harsh. How else will you understand? Even today, there's clearly more stuff than before. Well, that's... If you buy your money, it's gone. But there's no point in paying for something you won't use. I'll use it. I bought it because I liked it. How many times have you used that exercise equipment? Have you ever finished a bottle of supplements? Well, I'm fed up with her excuses. Let's be clear. You just enjoy the act of buying. That's why you don't use what you buy and run out of money. Please think about your limits. I understand. I kept trying to convince her, but nothing changed. I decided to consult my husband. John, remember when we talked about your mom's shopping habits?
Yeah, she started watching shopping channels a lot after Dad passed away. What about it?
She's spending recklessly. She's even started asking me for money.
Is she really that strapped for cash?
It's not about being strapped for cash. It's about her wasteful spending.
What is waste?
John may not know because he hasn't actually seen it, but it's really bad, isn't it? There are a lot of expired products lying around the room. My husband sighed.
Oh, don't be so stingy, Betty.
What?
She's lonely since Dad died. If shopping makes her happy, let her be.
Wait a minute. I don't mind if she enjoys herself, but do you understand the situation? She's asking me for money.
She has no other joys in life. Just lend her some.
I couldn't believe he was taking her side. On the contrary, it's implicitly saying, Mom isn't your fault. Just be kind to her. As expected, I was also angry at this. Enough is enough. I've tried talking to her multiple times and it's not working. That's why I'm talking to you, John. Do you get it?
Then don't take away her only joy.
That's not the point. You haven't been home recently, so you can say that. My husband sighed deeply.
Look, I'm tired from work. I don't want to hear my wife badmouth my mom.
Badmouth? How is this badmouthing? I'm concerned about her.
Then help her out.
What?
If you're concerned, then lend her some money. Simple.
That's not the point.
You've always been stingy, Betty. I'm embarrassed to have such an arrogant wife.
I felt a surge of indescribable anger. So you're saying her lifestyle is the priority? Fine. I have my own plans. I'll help her out, just as you wish. So I decided to put the plan I had in mind into action. The next day, as expected, she asked for money again. I headed to her house with an envelope containing $300. When I handed the envelope to my mother-in-law, she thanked me with a big smile. Wow, Betty, thank you. $300 is a lot. It's not from me this time. What do you mean? Look at the back of the envelope. Dear Mom, is this from John? Yes, he saved some money. Use it wisely. My plan was to give her the $300 that was supposed to be my husband's allowance for the next month. Of course, I hadn't told him yet. As soon as she took the envelope, she started making shopping calls. Look, Betty, this supplement has royal jelly. It must be effective. I couldn't help but laugh. Look, Betty, this supplement contains royal jelly. Isn't it really effective? I couldn't stop laughing as I watched her. That night, I reported the day's events to my husband. I went to your mom's today and gave her some money.
Ah, you did. She must have been happy.
Yes, she was thrilled. She said, For me, from John?
Wait, what? Me?
I gave her the $300 that was supposed to be your allowance for next month.
What? Are you kidding me? You can't do that.
You told me to lend her some money.
That doesn't mean you can use my money.
He acted as if I was the one at fault. I told my husband clearly. Then what? Should I use my savings to help her? After all the warnings I've given her, this is ridiculous.
Calm down, Betty.
Calm down? How can I be calm in this situation? I've been patient for so long. And you just say lend her some. If that's the case, you deal with it.
Okay, I get it.
If you ever take money from my wallet or account again, I won't forgive you. That's grounds for divorce. Handle your mom's issues yourself from now on. That was the first time I had yelled at my husband this much. I was so strong that even I am surprised. I was surprised at how surprised my husband was, and I just stood there. This was the first time I'd yelled at my husband like this. He was stunned. Are you listening? Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
After that, I stopped going to her house and ignored any requests for money. Now she started targeting her kind son instead of his cold wife. Every day, calls from her flooded my husband's phone, and he looked increasingly worn out. John, I don't have enough money.
What? Again? I just gave you $300.
I spent it on royal jelly.
How much did you spend?
$300.
You used all of it? My $300?
It looked really effective.
You have a pension. Use that.
It's already gone. Please, I won't make it.
Please, be more responsible with your spending.
It seemed like he couldn't take it anymore. One day he said,
I'm going to my parents' house,
and left. My husband went to visit my in-laws after months just to complain to his mom. But what he found was an overwhelming amount of health gadgets and supplements.
What is all this? The room is filled with boxes.
Well, you see.
No excuses. Get rid of this stuff now.
You're taking away an old woman's only joy. I thought you were on my side.
Ugh, I can't take this anymore.
In the end, he had a huge fight with my mother-in-law and came back home. Seeing the situation for himself, he finally woke up and immediately apologized to me.
Betty, I'm really sorry. I was wrong.
What? Why, all of a sudden?
I didn't realize how bad my mom was until I saw it for myself. You were right all along, Betty.
If you understand, that's good, but what are we going to do about your mom?
After talking to her today, I realize she won't listen. No matter how much we try to reason with her, she'll keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, figures. We spent the night discussing what we could do. A few days later, we confronted his mom. We started organizing all the stuff his mother had bought. What are you doing? Stop it! This is expired, and this too.
Ah, this one can be canceled.
Good, let's cancel it right away. Don't touch! These are my treasures! Ignoring her pleas, we spent the day organizing and got rid of everything she had hoarded. Then John heads to a thrift store and sells off everything he can. We sold what we could and canceled all her subscriptions. Now, unless she orders something, nothing will be delivered to this house. After we were done, my husband handed her the money we got and said,
Mom, we can't deal with you anymore. This is the last thing we can do for you.
How could you? Selling my stuff and canceling my subscriptions?
Enough. Your wastefulness is affecting us too. Realize what you're doing is throwing money down the drain. We're done. If you still want to waste money, go ahead.
Realizing she couldn't rely on her son, she turned to me. Please, Betty, don't abandon me. I'm sorry. I looked at her calmly. There's nothing more we can do for you. Use your pension wisely. No, don't leave me. We left without looking back, while she broke down crying. A mother-in-law who was given up on by her son and his wife, and was told to quit. We've received several messages from her since, but we haven't responded. We have no idea how she's managing now, and frankly, we don't want to know. I feel sorry for her, but I absolutely don't want to be dragged into that kind of trouble anymore. We moved away from the house near the in-laws' house and started anew. My husband has been more receptive to my opinions lately, From now on, we won't have to worry about his mother. No more worrying about her during Christmas or summer vacations. All I wish for now is to live a peaceful life, just the two of us. That's all I want now.